I hope you've been getting along fine through all of this, and I wish that we were in the classroom together instead of trying to do this over the internet. For the first part today, I want to have you look through the textbook, read through the introduction and chapter 1, and as you're doing that, follow along. One of the important techniques for learning from a book is that you actually go through and try the different things that they lay out. It's usually really easy to understand in the moment as you're reading it, but it doesn't necessarily carry over if you haven't actually done it. And when you do, try some examples that you think up that are variations on what the book says. So right now I am on the classwork for the Google Classroom, and the textbook is under Resources Course Textbook. And if I click on that link in there, it's going to bring me to that website. If you have the physical textbook, so much the better. But if not, what you would do is scroll down through here to the table of contents. And in this case, I'm going to click on the introduction. There are a couple of differences in the ways that we've been doing the programming than the way that Al Swigert, is that his name? Yep, there it is. Does that work. So there is some really important stuff in the introduction. I wouldn't say that you should be trying to memorize things, but there are some very valuable ideas in there about what it takes to learn programming, or steps you can take to make it go a little better for yourself. One thing I want to point out is that a lot of what he does is in this interactive shell stuff that he's going to talk about here. And that allows him to, instead of doing something like print hello world, which would work fine in Visual Studio, he will put in things like just 42 plus 3 and get a result. If we do that, I'm going to switch over to Visual Studio Code now. If we do that in here, so I've created a folder and I've opened it. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it differences.py. And then if I try to type just 42 plus 3 and hit enter and then run it, F5, run the Python file, it's not really going to do anything, because what's actually happened here is it has added 42 plus 3, but we haven't told it to output anything or anything of the sort. So what we would need to do to make that translation is do a print command. So if I say print 42 plus 3, F5, enter, you'll see down here it's going to actually show that result. And so that's one of the things you have to do. And in that specific example that I showed you here, he was looking for, oh, I lost it here. He was looking to see the error that's created. Notice that this 42 has quotes around it, and then he gets an error that says you can't convert an int object to a str implicitly. That's a string, which is just any list of characters. So when we add a number to a string, Python doesn't know what to do, because it's trying to stick them together, because the first thing is a string, but this one is a numerical value. So in order to get that error, I would need to put quotes around the 42. F5, enter, and you'll see that I get that exception has occurred. Type error, can only concatenate str, not int to str, and then it shows what that error is. So the errors are going to look different, but they're going to have the same basic issues when you're working in Visual Studio Code. So that's the point that I wanted to make to you today. Please email me with any questions that you have, and I'll put in an assignment for you to send me something today so that I can see that we're actually all up and running and moving along. If you do have any problems, again, please email me and we'll connect and see what we can resolve. As for those of you that have already taken the course, I will be sending emails to you asking you what you'd like to do with this time, because there's no sense wasting it. If it feels like a waste to you, then we can come up with more advanced projects, different resources, or just push you on to different chapters. So let me know. Thanks. Hope you're well.